The Great Depression was the most severe global economic downturn in human history. We hope such crises remain confined to history, but realistically speaking, I remain skeptical.
Franklin Roosevelt served as the 32nd President of the United States from March 4, 1933 to April 12, 1945, as a member of the Democratic Party. He remains the only president to have been elected to 4 consecutive terms in office. He led the United States out of crisis and guided the free world to victory in World War II. In 1935, the Roosevelt administration enacted the Revenue Act of 1935. This legislation served as a pivotal component of Roosevelt's New Deal wealth redistribution strategy, aiming to alleviate America's tense class divisions through taxation that soaked the rich. The legislation substantially increased tax rates for high-income individuals and large corporations, imposing a marginal tax rate of up to 79% on personal incomes exceeding $5 million. Remarkably, only one person in the United States earned over $5 million that year: John Davison Rockefeller. Upon learning of the bill Roosevelt was about to submit to Congress, Rockefeller rushed to the White House to meet with him. Roosevelt calmly led him to the window, pointed at the angry crowd below, and said, "Either pay your taxes or wait to be hanged to the lantern." John D. Rockefeller was a highly controversial figure. In business, he achieved success through a series of innovations. Yet he also employed ruthlessly aggressive tactics, waging a merge or go bankrupt business war to transform his Standard Oil Company into a nationwide petroleum monopoly. From the 1880s to the early 20th century, Standard Oil monopolized approximately 90% to 95% of the U.S. petroleum industry. That is just as he stated in his speech at Brown University.
"The American beauty rose can be produced in the splendor and fragrance which bring cheer to its beholder, only by sacrificing the early buds which grow up around it."
He was also a philanthropist. Throughout his life, Rockefeller donated over $540 million to charitable causes. Considering the economic conditions of his era, this sum would be equivalent to tens of billions of dollars today. The Rockefeller Foundation, established by him in 1913, aimed to permanently enhance the welfare of humanity worldwide. The foundation supports projects in public health, agriculture, social sciences, and the humanities. Its funding for the Green Revolution significantly boosted agricultural yields in developing countries, saving hundreds of millions of lives. Ronald Chernow is a recipient of the Pulitzer Prize for biography. In his biography of John D. Rockefeller, Ronald Chernow wrote the following assessment of Rockefeller.
What makes him problematic, and why he continues to inspire ambivalent reactions, is that his good side was every bit as good as his bad side was bad. Seldom has history produced such a contradictory figure.
The story of Roosevelt and Rockefeller that we cited at the beginning is likely a legend. The phrase, "hanged to a lamppost," originates from the French expression, à la lanterne. During the French Revolution, enraged citizens hanged certain officials or nobles on lampposts. Violence is never revolution. When we speak of revolution, it is always because it has sparked a transformation of ideas. Thus, revolution may involve violence, but mere violence does not equate to revolution. In this sense, the French Revolution was an event brimming with violence, yet profoundly intellectual in its transformation. Its violence was a catastrophe for the French people, but its ideas brought great enlightenment to all humanity. One of the most significant legacies of the French Revolution is liberty, equality, fraternity. I have provided a detailed analysis of this concept in my essay, "Liberty is not negative, only exist, and none." Interested readers are welcome to explore it further. It was precisely under the banner of liberty, equality, fraternity, that France forged the first sovereign nation-state of contemporary significance in human history. The people were regarded as the nation, the sole source of sovereignty. The French term la nation refers to a people united by shared cultural and historical consciousness, forming a collective consensus. Thus, the sovereign state constituted by these people is more accurately termed a public power state or a civic state. The counterpart to the public right state is the private right state, prevalent in European history and founded upon royal authority and feudal nobility. Fraternity, derived from the Latin fraternitas, with its root frater, meaning brother, emphasizes brotherly bonds and places greater emphasis on shared responsibility within the community. For a nation-state founded on public authority, this becomes a shared understanding within the nation, the duty of mutual aid and mutual love. The bottom line of fraternity is that you cannot stand by and watch members of your community starve to death. You cannot ignore the plight of those within your community who face hardship. Just days before writing this, on the evening of August 7th, 2025, in Houston, Texas, 34-year-old Jesse Mobley Jr. suddenly collapsed while dining alone at KFFO Afro Steakhouse. Instead of calling for help, restaurant staff moved him and his belongings outside onto the sidewalk or parking lot. This action resulted in a critical delay in receiving timely medical attention. Afterward, the staff's excuse was that they believed him to be a homeless person. Does being homeless mean one does not belong to our community? Does being homeless mean one is not a human being? Does being homeless mean one is not entitled to assistance? Early the next morning, a passerby, possibly a student from a nearby beauty school, discovered Jesse Mobley with a purple face and ants crawling on his body, prompting them to call the police. However, when emergency responders arrived, they pronounced Mobley dead. The cause of death remains pending autopsy results. I once expressed the view that the United States is merely a half-formed nation-state. The establishment of America as a community was founded upon two wars. The first was the American War of Independence, and the second was the American Civil War. According to mainstream historical research and demographic projections, during the American War of Independence, the pro-independence faction within the 13 colonies constituted approximately 40% to 45% of the total population. The opposed independence and remained loyal to Britain, approximately 15% to 20%, while the total number of those who were neutral, wavering, or undeclared accounted for 30% to 45%. During the American Civil War, the mainstream historical consensus concludes that staunch supporters of abolition, primarily Northern radicals, constituted approximately 13% to 20% of the total population. Among these, genuine radical abolitionists were even fewer. Meanwhile, those who more broadly supported limiting slavery or gradual abolition comprised roughly half of Northern whites. Those who were neutral or had complex motivations, seeking to preserve the Union but not supporting abolition, accounted for over 40%. The vast majority of white Northerners did not fight primarily for abolition, but to preserve the Union. Many of these individuals, while opposing the expansion of slavery, harbored reservations about full equality or the emancipation of slaves. The primary Southern white population and those who supported slavery and opposed abolition constituted approximately 75% to 80% of the Southern population, representing 20% to 30% of the total U.S. population. It is evident that the American population genuinely supporting abolition during the Civil War constituted a minority, amounting to only about 13 to 20%. In fact, many serious academic studies today also suggest that during the Revolutionary War, the number of staunch patriots likely barely reached 30%. This aligns with what I have repeatedly emphasized. Major social transformations can be accomplished when 2% of the elite rally 20% of the pioneers. The death of Jesse Mobley also demonstrates that the United States has yet to form a community grounded in justice, fraternity, to this day. The disregard for Jesse Mobley goes beyond mere indifference to the life of a street dweller. It reflects a profound lack of basic responsibility and professional ethics among restaurant patrons. Mobley was not a homeless person, yet the callousness toward him defies adequate description. Even more astonishing is that, as the world's leading superpower, neither the federal government nor most state governments maintains annual statistics on homeless deaths. According to reliable reports and estimates, the number of homeless individuals dying each year in the United States ranges from approximately 17,000 to 40,000. Now let's look at European countries.
United Kingdom. The number of recorded deaths among homeless individuals typically ranges between 600 and 800 annually. Germany. Estimates indicate hundreds die each year due to homelessness. Ireland. The death toll has risen year by year, reaching hundreds annually. Belgium and France. Reports indicate dozens to hundreds of deaths occur each year.
America, a nation of citizens, or a nation of public authority, as stated by Dianne Morales, a candidate in the 2021 New York City Democratic mayoral primary. A city cannot depend on the charity of the rich. Indeed, in a public authority state, power emanates from the people, making it inherently a nation of citizens. Its construction relies not on the charity of the wealthy, but on the goodwill and fraternity of each and every one of us. Zohran Mamdani, winning the Democratic primary for New York City mayor in 2025, is a dangerous sign. As I argued in the previous chapter, Mamdani blows taxes on the rich. How wealth conspires with power. Capitalism itself is not a free market economy, but state capitalism, a collusion between capital and power. Labeling Mamdani a socialist does little to explain the underlying truth of public sentiment. Since Barack Obama served as the 44th President of the United States, progressive voters supporting the Democratic Party have paid too high a political cost for the party's slogans, without receiving any tangible economic returns. Even achieving universal health care proved impossible, leaving voters with no incentive to continue supporting the Democratic Party. This is the true reason Democrats lost the 2024 presidential election, lost the House of Representatives, and lost the Senate. We must recognize that Social Security, reliant on charity, is merely relief. Only a welfare system grounded in universal consensus embodies fraternity and can truly deliver the freedom from want for all members of the community. Since Donald Trump assumed office as the 47th President of the United States, the capital has brazenly colluded with power. Capital has also colluded with the intellectual sphere, even seeking to monopolize thought through social media. Freedom from want remains a distant prospect, while freedom from fear now hangs by a thread. Yet the Democratic Party has yet to forge a unified consensus, let alone lead progressive voters in countering the MAGA movement's threats to freedom of speech and freedom of worship. The Democratic Party has utterly degenerated into a giant in words, but a dwarf in action. This is precisely why Mamdani could prevail. At this moment, New Yorkers simply yearn for an angry challenger to step forward, one who stands against Trump and against crony capitalism. They couldn't care less about Mamdani's ideology, nor about his policy platform that defies economic principles. A campaign about governing New York City's future has long since devolved into political confrontation, a movement pitting rage against rage. Democrats must be vigilant. Republicans must be vigilant. All Americans must be vigilant. When rage confronts rage and ultimately erupts into violence, people will be hanged from lampposts. Remember, It was not only politicians and nobles who were hanged to the lantern in Paris, but also a poor baker named Denis Francois, simply because he had no bread to sell. Trump and Mamdani, seemingly at opposite extremes, both warn that America has been spinning its wheels under the banner of the four freedoms.
If capital and power are not caged, then it is freedom that will be hanged to the lantern.